Wonderful. Fantastic. So welcome everyone. This is the last meeting of the year for OBPAC. If you are new to OBPAC or have never used Zoom before, just a reminder that if you are not an OBPAC member to just keep yourself muted. Also, we ask for OBPAC members to keep their video on. And if you have any questions regarding that, feel free to post that on the chat room. Participants, if you can add your name, please do that by changing your name on the participant list. And we will open it up to public comment. So if you're interested in providing public comment, make sure to raise your hand by using the reaction button, or just adding your name and that you're interested in providing public comment in the chat room. As I mentioned earlier today, this meeting is being recorded, and in OBPAC, we are striving to promote diversity and inclusion. So we ask for participants to keep the meeting as respectful as possible. And when the OBPAC members are ready to cover public comments. If folks, once again, are interested to provide public comments, you're welcome to just add your name into the chat room, raise your hand, but this is just a friendly reminder that we're trying to keep public comment to 1 to 3 minutes. So thank you for joining us, and I will pass it on to, I think, Beth or Mavis.
Mavis.
Yay!
Yay.
Welcome. Do we have any? So let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. So I am Mavis Hartz. I am in LeGrand. I am on the OBPAC board. I'm one of the co-chairs, and I fill the has a bike shop role within within the makeup of our committee. So there we go.
Bike business.
Bike
Okay.
business. That's me. Go ahead, Beth.
I'm Beth Young. I am the other co-chair, and my role is, or my position is, the local and planning. I am a planner. I'll pass it on to Emma.
Hey everyone, Emma Newman here, usually from Springfield, Oregon, currently on the Oregon coast. I am an at-large member on OBPAC and excited to be here, and also just letting all my fellow committee members know I've had some family health challenges coming up, so I won't be taking on quite as much as I might typically volunteer for. Less capacity than typical at the moment. Mavis, are you calling on someone else, or do I have to tag someone here?
Why don't you tag somebody? Do it.
Nolan, have you gone yet?
No, I haven't.
Right.
My name is Nolan Poole. I'm a student at the University of Oregon, and I serve on OBPAC as the under 21 member. Yeah, I'm in Eugene, but I'm from Portland, lived there my whole life before going to university. I'm glad to see everyone. I'll do Dave Thompson.
Hi everyone, I'm Dave Thompson. I live in Bend, and I'm filling a new role of a non-voting member of OBPAC. And I just want to note that this is my third meeting, and I've already managed to get rid of 2 ODOT liaisons, so I'm looking forward to see what happens next.
Go ahead, Del. How about you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Del Scharfenberg. I live in Milwaukee, and I'm at my office in Beaverton right now. I serve on this committee as a representative of ORTAC, Oregon Recreational Trails, and yeah, happy to be here.
Awesome. It is great to see everybody's faces. Let's go ahead and run through the ODOTs because I see several up there. So Roberto, why don't you start?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mavis. I'm Roberto Cotto. I am the active transportation program analyst working for ODOT here at the Public Transportation Division, and I will pass it on to Leanne. Great to see everyone.
Hi, everyone. I'm Leanne Ferguson. I'm the Strategic Investment Manager at ODOT, and I am the staffer for OBPAC for the next little bit of time. Really excited to have played this role in the past and still be able to play it now. And Mavis, if you'd like, I can just kind of like call out some of the names of the ODOT folks that are here. When we do our division updates, we will have a longer time to introduce you to Suzanne, our new division administrator. So we can either do all of that now, or I can just sort of like note the people that are here, and then we can have Suzanne introduce herself during the division updates.
Perfect, that works.
Well, great. So we have my manager here, Stephanie Zellner. We have Jacob Easter from ODOT, who's going to do a presentation for you in a little bit. Dorian Pacheco, who is our outgoing staffer for OBPAC. Alan Thompson, who runs the Oregon Community Paths program. Marcia Hoskins, who is one of the managers here at PTD, and Amanda Howell, who's at ODOT and will be doing your micromobility e-bike presentation in just a little bit. So you have a good team of ODOTers here to support the work. And Suzanne Carlson, Suzanne will be doing our division update in just a little bit, and she's our new division administrator, and we'll have her introduce herself at that time.
Perfect. All right, Leanne, do you want to address our goals and move on to public comment?
Sure.
I mean, Beth.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, wait, I don't know if I know that one. Yeah, Beth.
I'm liking the Leanne idea. Like, yeah. All righty. So public comments can be submitted in advance, and we have received 2. And I'm just going to read this. Members of the public may also introduce themselves and inform the committee that they would like to share a public comment by using the chat. Verbal comments are limited to 2 minutes each. And do we have any verbal comments? Who's doing that? Roberto?
Yeah, so keeping an eye on our chat room, and it doesn't look like we have anyone interested in providing any public comments today.
Okay. We have all received one, and it was posted on the ODOT OBPAC website. One comment, it says August 30th, 2023, I guess, yeah, from Dick Doganis of Roseburg, Oregon, and the comment, regarding determining appropriate interactions of various mobility devices. You all, hopefully, the OBPAC members have read this. Does anybody want to comment on it? And I'll start the comments by saying at 2:30 p.m., Amanda Howell will be addressing this, giving a presentation on exactly this subject. Any other comments on the comment?
Maybe we loop back at the not on agenda items if we have further discussion on this, but I'd like to see that presentation prior to deciding if any further action is needed.
Great. Okay, noted. And then we received one that Roberto sending to all OBPAC members, and let's see here. It's from Rob Innerfeld, sent Friday, November 24th, regarding narrowing a bike lane on Highway 101 in Reedsport from 5 feet to 3 feet, and quote, they are still calling it a bike lane. Has OBPAC members had an opportunity to comment on that, or have you seen it?
No,
So,
I've not seen it.
Beth, that comment just came in within the last couple of hours. So I'll make sure to distribute that out and post it on our website as well. At
Okay.
that point, any OPAC members can provide comments or feedback on what Rob emailed us.
Wonderful. Okay. I guess
I think
that's
this
it.
is really important. So if we can bring this back up at the end of the meeting during the not on agenda items, kind of loop back to it. This is very concerning to me.
Okay. Great. I think that's it for public comment. I'll hand it back to the next person. Mavis.
Let me just unmute myself. Has everybody had the opportunity to read the minutes? And I would accept a motion for approval.
I'll make the motion for approval of the last meeting minutes.
Do we have a second?
I will second that.
Those in favor, please show me your thumbs. Those in opposition, please show me your thumbs. Excellent. Minutes are approved as presented, and we will move on to the division updates with Suzanne Carlson. We are looking forward to hearing from you.
Great. I'm Suzanne Carlson.
I can't hear anything.
Transportation Division Administrator. I've been with ODOT 2.5 years now.
Oh, we can't hear you.
I don't know, it's a very poor connection, at least from me, like I'm getting parts.
Yeah, she's
Roberto?
frozen and silent.
Suzanne, it may be that you need to reboot your computer or join us at a later time. I don't know if we want to move on to the next item. Well, Suzanne works her technical problems.
That works for me.
Dorian, would that be you? Can you go ahead and step in?
Yes, it's going to be Leanne today.
Leanne.
Oh.
All right. The membership changes. So we'll loop back around to Suzanne to give an introduction and staffing updates. I guess the main staffing update to note is that Dorian has taken another job within ODOT. Congratulations to Dorian, and congratulations to the Office of Equity and Civil Rights. But what that means is that I'll be staffing OPEC again for a little while Jessica Horning, who is your regular ODOT staffer, is on a rotation in delivery and operations. So that's kind of the main staffing update that's really relevant for today. Then we do have a couple of OBPAC membership changes. Michael Bork has decided to step down from OBPAC for personal reasons, not anything not anything related to OBPAC, more just like his life has changed and he can no longer commit to volunteering on this committee. So that is the most recent membership change. And I'll pause for a second because Suzanne's back on the line and we'll see if we can hear her, and then we can come back to the division updates after she does hers.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm so sorry about that. I'm in someone else's office and somehow everything went haywire. You can hear me. So let me take it from the top. My name is Suzanne Carlson, and I'm the new Public Transportation Division Administrator. I've been with ODOT about 2.5 years now. Previously was the Climate Office Director, so coming over from the Climate Office, where I've been, about 2.5 years. So I have a strong background in bike, pedestrian, transit, modal work. Originally from Seattle, and I founded a group, a community bike shop called Bike Works in Seattle. For those who've ever been up there and heard that, okay, there's one. And then went on to some other roles in bicycle and pedestrian policy, safety. I did serve as a pedestrian safety program manager at a at another DOT in Chicago. Yeah, and I'm just looking forward to getting to know folks. I don't think I really know anyone on the call here. So, in this new position, there'll be a lot of folks that I'll need to meet and get to know what you all are working on. So I look forward to doing that. I will jump over to position updates, and then if folks have any questions, happy to take those as well for however much time I have allotted. As far as staffing updates, we do have a transit operations manager position that's open. It's sort of newly created, or at least some things have been moved around. So this person will be over our regional transit coordinators and a lot of the really operational work directly with transit agencies. So I think that'll be an exciting role. And then the role previously held by Susan Pythman, the strategic investments and engagement manager. We have Stephanie Zellner, who's on the call, is serving in that role right now, and she'll be going back to her previous role in ODOT. So we'll be posting that soon. So please keep an eye out for that and let your networks know as soon as that one comes up. And I think with that, I think Leanne was going to share another staff transition as well. And so I think I'll hand the floor back. But again, happy to take any questions if you have them. And you may need to tell me because I'm on my phone now, so I don't know if I can see everybody.
Awesome, thank you. I think the next thing on our list was to we already talked about Dorian's staff transition.
Okay,
So we're on to the vulnerable road user assessment has been adopted. Just wanted to say that out loud and let folks know that's something that y'all have been participating in. Also wanted to note that Nolan provided some great testimony for at the Oregon Transportation Commission on November 9th, and he'll be able to give us a little bit more about that during the member updates. But thank you so much, Nolan, and great job. And then July, our in-person meeting, we're going to talk a little bit more about that in January, go over dates and location. So just note that's to be coming in January. We did reach out to the governor's office following up about wanting some guidance before you all start working on your work plan. And we reached out to Kelly Brooks at the governor's office and hope to have more information on around that for the January meeting. And our Office of Equity and Civil Rights training is scheduled for January 23rd. We just recently found out that what we thought was going to be like a 1.5 to 2 hour training is now going to be a half-hour training. So for committees, so we're gonna that's new news. So we're gonna work with the staff at the Office of Social Equity to see if we can actually combine it with your January meeting as opposed to having 2 different meetings on 2 different days. We're going to work on those logistics ASAP and we'll be able to update you via email, but just so that you know that training has changed to 30 minutes, which kind of shifts the way we've been thinking about it. Those are all kind of the high level division updates. Next on our list is to pass it off to Jake to talk about the strategic action plan updates, but we're way ahead of schedule. So if anyone has any questions before that happens, I'm happy to pause here, but looks like Jake's ready. So looks like he can start early if we want to do that.
Yeah, if you're ready for me, I can certainly start.
All right, let's do it. This will give us time at the end to do some of the not on agendas that have already been kind of swirling around. So
sure. Okay.
I think Roberto's going to do the presentation and Jake's going to provide the content. Let me know how I can help.
That is correct. I'll go ahead and share my screen, Jake, and whenever you're ready to move on to the next slide, just say move on to the next slide.
Sounds good. While he's pulling that up, I'll introduce myself. My name's Jacob Easter. I work in the planning unit at ODOT. I'm a member of the Strategic Action Plan development team. Normally, Mary McGowan, our project manager, does all the presentations. I'm going to give her a break today, though. She's been doing a lot of them, and she's got a lot on her plate. So you've got me for this afternoon. My objective for today is to share with you a couple different things. One, talk about what the Strategic Action Plan is and how we use it. 2, I want to share some updates that we're making to the plan, to our priorities and our outcome areas, because we are shifting from our current plan, which is set to expire at the end of this year, and we're moving to another plan starting at the beginning of next year. And then talk a little bit about the process that we use to get to where we're at today. And then finally drill down just a little bit and look at one of our outcome areas, which is improving access to active and public transportation. So with that, we can jump in. If you could go to the next slide. Perfect. So what is our strategic action plan and what is it not? So firstly, the strategic action plan is a document that's created in collaboration with the Oregon Transportation Commission and ODOT. It describes our near-term priorities for the agency and the actions that we want to take to achieve our goals. It is a document that covers near-term actions. It says 3 to 5 years on the slide because our current plan was a 3-year plan. Our next plan that's in development will move to the 5-year timetable. So that will be from 24 through the end of 28. And also the plan identifies measurable outcomes. So we have a number of outcome areas that I'll share with you today. And behind each one of those are some metrics and a reporting process that we use to keep us on track and hold us accountable. It is not long-term policy. And it's also not a comprehensive list of everything that the agency does. ODOT is quite a large agency. So what it is, though, is we're trying to include on the plan just a really focused list of priorities that we can communicate out with to the public and to legislators. If you could go to the next slide. So why was it created? Well, we use the strategic action plan to operationalize our long-term policies and plans, like the Oregon Transportation Plan, through short-term actions. We use it to communicate priorities with external partners, such as the governor's office, legislators, and the public. It demonstrates that ODOT is forward-leaning. For example, the work that we're doing in our climate office and the Office of Equity and Civil Rights. Congratulations, Dorian. It increases transparency and accountability. Again, we have short-term performance metrics attached to each one of our outcome areas. Okay, if you could go to the next slide. So when we first started the work of updating the strategic action plan, the first thing that we looked at were our strategic priorities that we have in our current plan. And it was decided that we will continue with those priorities into the next version. So we will still have seeking sufficient and reliable funding to support a modern transportation system and a fiscally sound ODOT. We'll still have equity, where we prioritize diversity, equity, and inclusion by identifying and addressing systemic barriers to ensure that all Oregonians benefit from transportation services and investments. And a modern transportation system. So building, maintaining, and operating a modern multimodal transportation system to serve all Oregonians, address climate change, and help Oregon communities and economies thrive. Next slide. And so from there, we went into conversations about our outcome areas. There are, looks like it might be cut off, at least it is on my screen, but there's 10 outcome areas. There are 10 outcome areas in our current plan. This new list is made up of a few outcome areas that are continuing forward from our current plan, as well as a handful of new outcome areas. So what I'd like to do is just kind of, I'll go through each one of these, provide a brief description just to give you a little bit of a taste of the things that we're working on as far as our outcome areas are concerned. So of course, first on the list is promote sustainable, resilient, and reliable funding. That will continue to be a priority for our agency. I think much of the work that they're developing on our implementing action with this area is geared towards the upcoming legislative session in 2025. We have a new outcome area for improving safety to reduce persons killed or seriously injured. It's a new outcome area, but of course it's not new for us. It's a goal on the current plan. It's a core function of our agency, but we recognize that safety conditions across all modes are worsening. So that is now an outcome area in our plan. Providing excellent customer service. This takes into account the interactions we have with the public in DMV, commerce and compliance, the interactions we have in freight and trucking community, as well as with maintenance, with the snow plowing and even our incident response folks. So customer service is now an outcome area. Preserve transportation assets is also a new outcome area added to the list. So this is looking at, with the limited funding that we do have, how do we maintain, how do we manage the system moving forward and take care of all of our critical assets, our roadways, culverts, ITS, all of our critical assets. And so that's a new outcome area. The next outcome area has to do with data. It's also new, and it looks at how we use data to inform people, processes, and programs. A lot of work going on in that space through our data solutions office. They're doing a lot to work on our outdated data systems to improve the quality and integrity of the data that we have so that we can share that data with our partners throughout the state and help them to make decisions, informed decisions. Building and equipping a diverse and inclusive workforce is continuing from our current plan. And of course, we want to continue to grow a workforce that reflects the communities that we serve. Implementing decision-making processes to improve equitable outcomes. That is a new outcome area. It's got some elements in it, though, that come from an area from the current plan, but that's really looking at all of our policies, processes, and procedures throughout the agency to make sure, through that equity lens, to make sure that it's moving the needle towards improving equitable outcomes. Reducing emissions and electrifying Oregon's transportation system. That's an outcome area continuing from the current plan. So we're looking at what we can do as an agency through the materials that we use on our projects to reduce GHG as well. We're looking to expand, of course, the electric vehicle charging infrastructure across the state. Improving access to active and public transportation. We'll talk more about that one here in a moment. And then lastly, reducing congestion in the Portland region, just recognizing that it continues to be an issue and bottlenecks and things like that. It just trickles down across the state. So I know this is just kind of a real quick touch on the list of outcome areas that we're developing. But next steps will involve the opportunity to review the strategic action plan in its entirety. And so you can see the narrative and some more of the details behind each one of those. Okay, if we can go to the next slide. So I just want to talk for a minute about the engagement that we're doing to develop the plan. Mary McGowan, our project manager, myself, the other folks on our team, we're really process facilitators, and we're working with folks across the agency and external partners as well, bringing those folks together to put the plan together. So we've formed an advisory committee made up of subject matter experts across the agency. We have ongoing and direct coordination with what we call our outcome area leads. So each one of those outcome areas on the list that you just saw has someone that's responsible for making sure that the work gets done, that reporting gets done, and that we're moving the needle. So we work closely with those folks. We've had a number of internal business line presentations for input. We meet routinely with all of our leadership groups, and we're keeping our staff up to date as much as we can as we go through this update process. Okay, next slide. And a little bit about external engagement. So we have two key phases as we're developing the plan. First of which is to review the proposed priorities and those outcome areas. So a little bit of what we're doing today in preparation for, or sort of teeing up, the review of the draft plan itself. We've met with a number of committees so far. We continue to meet with groups. We've done presentations to the ACTS, submitted letter for tribal government consultation. We have upcoming discussions with the OTC. We have a workshop with that group on December the 11th. And I do believe now, I'll have to update my materials moving forward, but I think our partner review, where you'll have a chance to see the plan in its entirety, is going to start right after that workshop. So December 11th, December 12th, and into January. Okay, so we can go to the next slide. That was a little bit about the process and super high level look at the plan. We wanted to drill into one a little bit and focus on that. So what I'd like to do is I'll just kind of read through each one of these first. And I think, I'm not sure if she's still in the room or not, but there were some names on the participant list of folks that have been helping us to build this part of the plan out. So they would certainly better able to answer specific questions about the development of this. But what I can do for you today is if you have any considerations or thoughts or feedback that you want me to take back to the team that we can work on as we move this forward, please let me know, put them in the chat or speak out loud, and I'll take that back to the group. One thing I want to mention, because it's come up a few times on this slide, and we are updating our materials, is where it says the year, we're talking about the year to complete. So just look at that and say, you know, as by the end of 2024, we're going to do this kind of thing. So just to start going through that, and then I'll open it up. First, we have develop public-facing tools to communicate public transit and active transportation funding awards and routinely evaluate impacts and outcomes of those investments. 2025, we have refine and standardized grant selection criteria using safety, equity, climate goals to identify projects that provide overlapping benefits and simplify processes for applicants. 2026, we have implement a statewide trip planning tool that will help Oregon travelers connect between transit systems and travel modes. And by 2028, define the multimodal network and establish priority corridors to improve the ease of reaching goods, services, and other destinations by and this is a list of just the implementing actions for this outcome area. When you see the plan in its entirety, you'll get the narrative behind it, as well as the metrics that we're using to track progress. And I hope you can hear me. I just got an internet connection unstable message. Let me know if I'm not coming through clearly. So with that, I can't see the participants, but if we've got like Suzanne or anybody else in the agency that helped to develop these implementing actors, anything you would like to add to the conversation to expand on these, feel free to jump right in. Otherwise, I'll just sort of open it up for comment or questions, any feedback that you might have.
I have a comment. Jacob, can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay, good.
I can.
Yeah, this is Beth Young, and you can't see us. I'm an OBPAC member, and I'm not sure where this would fall, but I wouldn't mind, as the person who represents local governments, I wouldn't mind to see more supportive active transportation on surface streets. ODOT taking the lead, or being very supportive of those kinds of things on surface streets.
On surface
That's all I
streets.
have
Got
to
it.
say.
Okay, thank you.
Looks like we also have Emma, then Dave.
Hi, Jacob. Nice to meet you. I know your partner, Mary, really well. She does great work.
Hi.
So I assume the same of you. I'm curious to hear this.
Yes, she does.
Hear a little bit more kind of retrospective of what evaluation was done and what was learned from the last strategic action plan, and how is that informing this update?
Well, what I can tell you is that we did a lot of lessons learned exercises. I don't have the details in front of me. I'm certainly circle back through that. But we did spend a considerable amount of time looking at where we were able to get to in our current plan, and that use that information to try to help inform where we want to go moving forward. And I know that doesn't really get to what you're asking, but I can bring that to the team, and we can follow up and get specifics to you.
That'd be great. Thank you. I think a lot of good planning work is done at the agency, and for some of the plans, sometimes the feedback loop of, okay, we did this planning, now how does it get implemented? And then how is the implementation evaluated to inform the next plan? How is that cycling the entire way through the process instead of just planning, fulfilling federal requirements, fulfilling different needs? and not necessarily focusing as much on the outcome. So I'm glad this is outcome oriented, and I really want to see change that occurs and impacts Oregonians' lives coming from this.
Thank you, Emma. Dave's hands
Yes,
up.
it's my turn. Hi, Jacob. I'm Dave Thompson. I live in Bend. So a couple comments, and definitely not intended in a negative way, but from an active transportation point of view, it's disappointing to see that it's going to take us 5 years to do these 5 things. I don't know, I understand that they're harder than they look, and that ODOT has, only certain set of resources. But it's just things move so slowly. And we're so far behind where we should be with active transportation, that anything we can do to accelerate the process is something we ought to do. My second comment is specifically on the 2028 goal of defining the multimodal network and establish priority corridors. We are in the final stages in Deschutes County of hopefully getting a new transportation system plan adopted that actually lists the active transportation corridors that need to be created between our communities. And, we would definitely like to see how that is going to play into this larger thing, assuming that we can get the Board of County Commissioners to adopt the plan, which we're working on. So anyway, just wanted to pass that along.
Thank you for the comments, Dave. Anybody else? If not, we can go to the final slide, although I'm going to just tell you right away that it needs to be updated. It talks about next steps. It mentions a partner review in November. Again, as I mentioned before, that's now in December. As well, the anticipated OTC approval to make sure that they have enough time for input and discussion. That's being moved out, probably now looking at 1st of March for approval. So they'll have, again, we've got a workshop with them in December, and some, I think we have another workshop in January, a couple opportunities to make sure that they're involved. So we'll update these materials, but be on the lookout for the draft SAP. We really appreciate the time in reviewing that and providing any feedback or comment. I see another hand up.
Yes, that's me. Again, I don't know where this falls, but it's a very, very general comment.
Okay.
Or maybe a question for you. What kind of studies have been done regarding how ODOT highways affect small towns when they go through them, bisect them, trisect them, like Newport? Has there been any discussion on that, of kind of working with small towns to prioritize passage over and along ODOT roads?
Yeah, I'm sure that there have been. I wouldn't be able to get you the specifics on that, but that is, again, I can follow up with that. I'll bring that to Suzanne and others and come back and get you some specifics.
Yeah, and not only a study, but I'd like to see that addressed more than it is right now by ODOT. I know that there's, when there's Main Street programs and that sort of thing that assist cities, but that's only for a certain core of the town. There's, in general, what I'm saying is those all ODOT roads that divide neighborhoods or parts of cities. and especially on the outskirts, so that kids can't get to their schools safely or without crossing, that sort of thing.
Got it.
It's a
Okay.
bigger picture thing than some studies. It's a prioritizing thing that I think affects a lot of towns. I brought that up because the last item was Portland, and I understand that population wise, the Portland is a priority. I get that, but this would affect a lot fewer people, but in cumulative, it affects a lot of land area. So I would like to see that.
Yeah, and that's a comment we've had from several groups that we've been sharing this with recently. And so, yeah, there's a recognition that congestion happens in a lot of other places, not just Portland.
It's not congestion so much as non-congestion. It's speed and quantity. That when you get that speed and quantity, the noise level goes up, and it makes it more dangerous for people to hear cars coming, that sort of thing.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I think you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm with you. And again, we've heard a similar comment, and that based on just looking at that outcome area. So I think there's work to be done in that space. So look for that when the version comes out for review.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thanks, Beth.
I guess I'm up next. I'm Nolan. I'm the under 21 position. I just wanted to say, first off, I agree with Dave about 5 years for the plan just not seeming like enough. Like, we're already in an environmental disaster. Anything to do faster would be better. And then also, I feel like this is just something I've noticed since being on OBPAC, and I don't really think that it applies specifically to this, but it's more just a general thing with what I've seen is like, it seems like a huge amount of man hours are going into like making these plans and everything. And there's not a lot of like individual site work, like, oh, it'd be better if we did this specific thing or connected these towns with a greenway, or like there's a lot of wasted effort on these like overarching telling what are basically ODOT engineers, you should be following these instructions, when I'm sure the ODOT engineers are aware of the current situation and know what they should be doing. And I just think that's a really big inefficiency for the entirety of the state and ODOT.
Yeah, I appreciate that comment. And something we've heard, especially with our long-term planning, like the Oregon Transportation Plan and things like that, is, it's spoken about, in such long timetable. And what we're trying to do, even with this plan, is be able to take that direction and break it down into these short-term actions. And behind the scenes, there are work plans and a list of things, right, that we go through that we try to complete. So yeah, I appreciate your comment. I also appreciate what Dave said about the time that it takes. So thank you both for that.
I'm gonna put on my planner hat here and say, I think it's a great timeline. If you don't have a long timeline, people change positions, all kinds of things happen. It's nice to have an overriding thing. And this is just how things go in government. Government is slow because government responds to people. There's so many moving parts in ODOT and so many people to please and so many people who pay for ODOT services, that to have a good overarching plan, and it's a process of getting a lot of feedback. And so I feel that this kind of stuff, constant feedback and all, and going slow, and it's more democratic, if you will, rather than some people just making decisions. Once people have this plan, they can't make decisions that counter this plan. So that's just my 2 cents on just planning in general, but I'm biased.
Appreciate it. Any other comments or questions? If not, I'll let you get back to your meeting.
All right, thank you
Alright.
very, very much. And yes, the need for plan is imperative, but the need to actually do something is imperative.
The need to execute, right?
Yeah, I like them both.
All right, thank you all so much. I really appreciate the time.
Thank you. So we were supposed to take a break, but we are very much ahead of time. So to get us to break time, Leanne, would you be willing to do the OBPAC member recruitment staff presentation at this time? And then after break, we'll come back and we'll be back on schedule with Amanda.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Let me get it ready. Okay. All right, here we go. Dorian pulled these slides together based on kind of interviews that she did with all of y'all and our past discussions about recruitment. Want to let you know that we've heard you that y'all don't want to spend a ton of time talking about recruitment at in your OBPAC meetings. So we're going to run through these slides a little bit quickly and get to the discussion quickly so that we can move past recruitment process quickly. But there will be some discussion questions in this during this 20 minutes. So our goals are to maximize our committee meeting time, to identify working groups to support the recruitment of our new members, and to increase diversity of representation within OBPAC by supporting some of the changes that were proposed in the last meeting, continuing to engage in targeted outreach, and identifying any bigger structural changes that OBPAC would like to consider as part of your 2024 work plan. Beth, did you have a question to start out, or is your hand up from previous?
I happen to have a question,
yeah,
but I should have taken that down. So let me try that. Okay. So when you say identify working groups to support this work, you mean working groups within OBPAC?
Mm-hmm. So in the past, there's been like I don't know if it was called a working group or a subcommittee, but a smaller group of OBPAC members that got together so that you didn't have to spend meeting time working on recruitment. It was kind of delegated to a smaller committee. So here's an example, the example that we proposed in your last meeting of a slightly updated process to how you've done it in the past to get more bigger committee OBPAC engagement in the process while the subcommittee does a lot of the nitty-gritty work. So so the blue circles in this visual are the new pieces, and the green boxes are kind of how it was done the last time through your recruitment. So the process would start when we have a vacancy, and right now we have two. We have Lauren Morris's position and Michael's position. So we wanted to add a discussion about the goals for the recruitment for the full committee, and that's what we're going to do in this meeting. We're going to discuss our goals for that recruitment, and we're going to identify who the subcommittee is going to be. And then we will be able to do the application announcement. We'll have the subcommittee complete interviews and make a recommendation. We'll bring that recommendation back to OBPAC for one final review before it goes to the governor for approval. So this is sort of the proposed change in the process. So So like I said, the presentation part of this was very short. So what we need to do is identify working group members. We need to kind of say I don't know if there needs to be a formal vote, but if you would like to do the new, that sort of new updated process coming back to the larger committee, we kind of need like a, yes, we'd like to do that. And then we'll have a discussion around what does the full committee want to see from that recruitment. So maybe we'll pause here for a second and ask for volunteers for the working group, or throw out ideas for the working group. Yeah, Beth.
This is not raising my hand to be a volunteer, just making it clear here. Raise my hand to say, could you please go back one slide, Leanne? I'd like to, thank you.
Yeah. So maybe the better cadence here is let's decide as a group if this is the process that you all would like. And then we'll talk about who wants to be on the subcommittee, and then we'll move into the group discussion about what we're looking for in this recruitment. Yeah, Emma.
Yeah, thank you. Given my experience with vacancies over the last several years, especially in more recent years, we rarely had a meeting when we've had a full committee. And so I think I voiced this at the last meeting. I want to make sure that adding a check-in with the full committee about a recommendation isn't slowing down the process too much. If that means that we're operating at like 6 members on average as a committee, I have some concerns about adding that in. If the check-in can be added and not extend the timeline much, then I think it's great. So I'm curious, Leanne, if you can help us understand, this is a flow process, but how would it land in reality with our meeting schedule for like January and March? Does waiting for a check-in with the full committee mean that it takes 6 months to appoint someone, or is it still a few month process? Like, what does this mean in reality?
It does add an extra step to the process, so it will always add a little bit of time, but I don't think that there needs to. I think that you all can decide how you want that to look. Like, it could be like an email. It doesn't have to be a presentation and a discussion at a meeting. You could also decide to take that piece out. Just a reminder that we wanted to update this process because the last recruitment we had, there was a moment in time when it felt like we probably should have gone back to the committee so that at least everybody was on the same page. You could also try this out one time and then say like, oh, actually, maybe we don't need that piece anymore. So it's really up to you all how y'all want to do it. Adding more steps always adds more time. And I don't think there's any, but it depends on how y'all want to engage in that step. And if everybody's like, yeah, an email's fine. And if everybody's like, yeah, that list looks great, then it'll be fast. But if there are comments about the recommended members, then it would take more time. So it's going to be a group effort to make this fast or slow, and fast doesn't always mean better. So those are all my thoughts on that one without really answering your question.
Thank you. I guess my personal opinion is that the top left bubble of adding a discussion about the goals and providing that direction to the smaller group is really critical. And then if the smaller group can't fulfill the goals, then there's maybe more need for a committee discussion. But if they're like, yep, we took our charge, we fulfilled it, I'd be okay just getting an informational email saying, hey, look, we did the thing that we were supposed to do. Check, success, moving on. Let's not delay the process further. So I guess I'm not sure that we always need that second check-in before the governor approval, but I'd like to hear from other committee members and also be cognizant of time. So.
Can I respond?
Yeah.
Okay, so I agree with Emma. Let's not hold things up for a long time, and however that can be done is great. That check-in with the last check-in, perhaps that can be satisfied with a letter or a note from the subcommittee saying, without saying a name, say why they felt this person was a good candidate, you know, their background or something about them that came out in the interviews that made them choose that person or made them want to have that person on OBPAC, or people on OBPAC. And just so we, you know, we don't see a name and we see that it's a guy, or we see the age of the person, or, you know, a little more information about how that was how that person was chosen. Perhaps that can be a letter to OBPAC members, and then at the next OBPAC meeting, people can comment that, so they have more of a background. Because I see that second meeting just being kind of awkward otherwise. Just my 2 cents.
Dave.
Just I guess a point of order question. In my other role as chair of the Deschutes County BPAC, we are not allowed to conduct business via email because of public meeting law. And so I'm just curious, you know, how much can we really do via email? We certainly can't do anything that would be construed as making decisions, as I understand it, as a committee via email. So I just want to make sure that whatever I agree, I think we need to streamline this a little bit, or we've got, you know, an average of a month gap for each of those blue circles if we meet every other month. So I like the idea of basically informing all the committee members what's going on and giving them an opportunity to basically say, hey, I think we need to talk about this in a regular meeting before we move forward. But I don't want us to, you know, violate Oregon law.
Very good point, Dave. I think as long as y'all aren't like, I think I really like the way you phrased it, where the subcommittee can sort of send out, say like, this is who we're planning to reach out to. If you think we need to discuss this at the next meeting, speak now, because we're about to send this off to the governor. Because I don't think we can make decisions via email for the committee for sure, so that we can't do a vote via email. But since you generally have delegated the responsibility to select the new members to the subcommittee, it would just be more informing. And then if there was a big red flag, a committee member could say like, hey, actually, can we halt this? I'd like to discuss it at the next meeting.
I'm good with that.
Okay. And then really what staff sends to the governor is your recommendation, and then the invitation actually comes from the governor's office, but OBPAC through staff recommends who those members are. So it sounds like, oh, go ahead, Mavis.
I was just going to say, I think that's a great compromise where we are doing a check-in, but that check-in doesn't necessarily have to be during a meeting. It's not going to take up meeting time. And if anybody really, really feels like they need to do a little extra or have more into that decision, they can. So I think it's a good compromise from where we were.
So it sounds like folks are all coalescing around an agreement here. I feel like I should know this as a staff person. I don't think there needs to be an official vote on this process. However, I'll defer to the chairs if y'all are like, actually, we voted on stuff like this in the past.
My experience is, if we feel like we should vote on it and to get an official opinion of the group, then we should vote on it. And that's what I've been told. Like, if it feels like we want to make a statement that we agree with this or don't. What do you guys think? Should we vote on it?
I think we should have somebody make a motion and we should move through that way. Emma?
Yeah, I'd be happy to make that motion because I think it brings clarity of like what exactly are we agreeing to, and then we're good on that, or we're not, and we discuss it more. So what I think I'm hearing before I make the motion, I'm just going to make sure that I understand what the motion is that instead of adding the check-in with the full committee at recommendation, about recommendation, it would be the, what are we calling it? The subcommittee would inform the full committee by email about the recommendation, with an option for any OBPAC member to say, we need to bring this to our next committee meeting before sending it to the governor. So it's a streamlined process with that out saying, hey, bring it to the committee. Is that what I'm hearing? I'm looking for head nods. Okay.
Emma, I
Mhm.
don't know if we want to add this to what you're saying, but what I mentioned about giving details about the choice, why they chose it, I'd like to see that included in that email that everybody gets.
Okay.
And I might add that
Stab at
that
this.
email can be posted publicly, can't it? To make it, no, maybe not. Okay, so all I'm saying is maybe add that we would like details.
Okay, so I make a motion to change the second blue bubble to the subcommittee informs the full OBPAC committee about their recommendation by email, including a brief description or like reason for their recommendation. And then there's an option for any OBPAC member to request that the recruitment be brought back to the full committee for more discussion prior to the governor's approval. If the timeline listed in the email, maybe it's a week long, like opportunity for comment, or for kicking it back to the full committee, if that time passes and no one speaks up, then the recommendation goes forward to the governor for approval and doesn't require any more full committee time. That was a little lengthy, but I think that's what we're aiming for.
I second that wonderful motion.
Thanks, Beth.
Do we have any discussion? Excellent. Those in favor, let me see your fingers. Those opposed, let me see your fingers. Motion passes.
Sorry, I just saw can you stop sharing so we can see the vote? But I guess we saw it, so I guess I can start
I
sharing.
thought we're all good. We're gonna do one more check-in, but via email to make sure that everybody's on board prior to sending it to the governor's approval.
Great. All right. So now that we've got our process, who wants to do it? We've had 3 people in the past volunteer to be on that subcommittee. The last 3 were Lauren, Aaron, and Dell, I believe. Yeah. So that's how we've done it in the past. So who would like to be our subcommittee for this round?
I think we should table this because at least one member is going to be coming back. Why don't we do this at the round table?
Okay.
More aptly, I'm hoping to rep that he'll be on this committee. I want him.
The next question for the group is, what are the goals for this recruitment? So what experiences and perspective is OBPAC missing right now that you would like to add for this during this recruitment? Lauren Morris was the health representative. She also was a tribal member, so was able to add that perspective. And I think Mike was an at-large member. I'm almost positive.
I'll hazard a suggestion. From a traditionally underserved population, that includes, pretty much, I don't want to say any more, but I think that's a good broad comment that covers women, people with disabilities, racial minorities, all kinds of things that people are.
I think shooting for somebody like Lauren was our health representative, and I think that is a great one to pull into the mix if we can. Lauren was also the with one of the tribes. The tribes that live around where I live, walking and biking is huge, and so if we had a tribal representative, that would probably be a good idea. What are we legally bound to have? Because I am here because OBPAC has to have me. Well, not me particularly, but somebody who owns a bike shop. So what are we currently missing in our? You have to have these things.
And Emma caught me in the chat. You are correct, Emma. It is not health, it is environmental. My brain was on another wavelength. My brain was in the Safe Routes Advisory Committee. You need an environmental representative, a bicycle business representative, one local government, land use representative. So anyway, the blue boxes are ones that you have, and the yellow boxes are the ones that will have openings in.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so what would an environmental representative look like?
I like the broad stroke there, but I like just kind of keeping it there, being open. But
well, these are the things, Beth, these are the things that we have to have. We are
right
by the makeup. So I'm just trying to figure out what is the definition of somebody that would be an environmental representative, because I have no idea.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. And what I'm saying is I wanted to just state that word because it can be anybody from a watershed biologist to somebody who wants to lower greenhouse gases in some ways. That's how I see it. It's just a nice broad term that most anybody who is professional or interested or an activist in any sort of environmental work that lowers the greenhouse gases. That's my thought.
Jessica's mentioning in the chat that Jeff Monson from Commute Options sort of represented the environmental position for many years, really their organization really focusing on lowering greenhouse gas emissions through transferring people from single occupancy vehicle to shared and ped bike modes. So Jeff filled that role in the past. Dell's hand's been up for a little while, and then Emma.
Yeah, I wanted to say I was on the committee last time, and some of the things that we evaluated are like our short timer of Michael Bork. We picked him for a couple of compelling reasons. One, he was director of a Parks and Recreation, North Clackamas County. He was also a disabled vet, and one of the criteria that one of the higher ranking criteria was some sort of disability. And I don't know what Michael's disability is exactly, but he did fulfill that checkbox. And I'm also still somewhat disturbed that we had 3 of us that worked pretty hard on this recruitment last time, and we've gotten a lot of backlash that we didn't do enough feedback or anything, and I think that still eats at me a little bit. So just wanted to put that out there.
Thanks for sharing, Del. That's real, and I think that's one big reason for wanting to add a couple of checkpoints in, because I think you all did a great job on the subcommittee, and just adding a couple more checkpoints will help all of that work really shine, I think. So thank you for your work on that subcommittee, and we really appreciate it. And Del brings up a really good point that the law also states that the membership of this committee must reflect the racial, ethnic, and ability composition of the state of Oregon. So that will be another filter that the subcommittee will need to use when recruiting. But we can add more filters to that list too, which is kind of what this discussion is for. So thank you, Del. That's a really good point. Emma.
Thanks. Thanks, Del. As someone who was not on the subcommittee last time, I want to take ownership and say, hey, we didn't have this conversation. We didn't provide direction. So we kind of set the subcommittee up to fail by not having a full committee agreement going into it. So please don't take that as like any failure on your part. It's more as a committee, we're improving our processes, having recognized that we didn't have this conversation, and it's beneficial to know what our desired outcomes as a group are before going into a recruitment process. So I'm glad we're having this conversation now. What I was going to speak to is, I think it was at our last meeting, we were talking about recruitment. One of the ideas or next steps that I had captured was evaluating the current committee membership to inform this upcoming recruitment. And I don't know if our materials have any of that, but I'm curious, like, what do we represent with our current committee makeup, and what are the holes? I think someone with a disability, or even multiple people with different disability perspectives, could be valuable. I don't know to what extent that's represented on our current membership. I know that low-income individuals are more likely to be hit and killed or severely injured as a pedestrian on the Oregon transportation system. And so I want to make sure that we have low-income representation. I think there are some challenges from how our committee, like what our committee processes and structure and all that are, but I think that people who don't speak English as a first language experience other barriers to the transportation system and quality of life here in Oregon. We know that BIPOC individuals also don't have the same benefits in our transportation system, especially in walking and biking, as others. So those are some of the things I'm interested in, but I don't know what information we have right now of who are we as a committee right now to help inform what are the gaps. There also might be geographic gaps. I don't know that we have anyone right now from Southern Oregon. Like what are the areas that our collective knowledge and experience isn't thinking of as much because of who we are and how we are coming to the table based on our lived experience and knowledge. So do we have more information about current committee makeup, or is that still pending? Where's that piece at?
Did y'all ever fill out a form? There's a committee member form that that the folks on the SRAC filled out, and that asked you a lot of personal information that we could then pull for this type of data analysis. And I don't remember if this committee has it or not. So Roberto, if you have any information about that, or if committee members remember filling out a form at some point, like if you filled out a form, then we have it. But if you didn't fill out a form, then we don't have it.
I don't remember.
I can speak for myself. I'm representing ORTAC, which is one of the boxes that we're looking at here. And the only reason I'm representing ORTAC is because Robert was representing them, and he stepped down, and I was apparently the only person that was willing to replace him. I do feel like I'm sort of disrespected because I'm a white male, and that seems to be political no-no nowadays, to be a white male representing anything. So just again, just wanted to say that, get it out of the way.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Del. Emma, did you have something you wanted to add?
I'm just thinking maybe we haven't filled out any assessment, and that might be a next step to inform.
I saw Roberto come off of mute, so I was wondering if you knew of, but yeah, that would be the next step. There is a form that everybody needs to fill out, and it asks, I don't think income is in there, so I don't know if it would meet that. Some of the requirements, Emma, that you're mentioning would be addressed on that form. Some of them would not. Roberto, do you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So for folks who are participating in either the ECP program or in our stipend program as a member, they do have to fill out some of the income information. So we do have that information for folks. However, more detailed information on demographics, I don't think we have that in place, or at least recorded. This was done before my time, the recruitment piece. So that is something that we have added into the application process. So the application that folks fill out does now have all that demographical information needed, but I don't think we have the detailed demographical details that Emma's asking for.
Maybe what we can do is we can sort of, as staff, look for the forms if we have them for everybody. If we don't have them for everybody, we'll send them out to everybody because it's required anyway for everyone to fill it out. And however, once we get this sort of full list of things that we're looking for on the committee, a lot of those things won't actually be in this form. Like so I don't know if you guys want a survey or something, like once you sort of make your list of these are all the things that we're hoping to see on the committee. I don't know if people on the committee feel comfortable being like, oh, I feel that, or if you want us to do some kind of survey. All this will just anyway. So those are some of the options. Mavis and Beth, both your hands are up, but I don't know who got up first.
Go, Mavis. Put on your
mic.
Put on your mic.
Well, I'm reminding us of the time for one, and then for the other, looking at the demographic of our who I know on our OBPAC, I'd really like to see somebody with a kinder, first grade, that age group kind of child, because I know that a lot of things with walking and biking and everything came to a head for me personally as I was trying to walk my kid to school, and I was seeing all these barriers. So from my point of view, if we were to be shooting for somebody that is in that demographic, I think that would be advantageous. Beth, what do you have to say?
I'm thinking that it's really great. How do I do this? We all have hidden parts of us that people don't know about, that might not be, that we don't want the whole public to know about. I'll just share that I have been on, all I can think of is food stamps in my past as an adult. So I have experienced being low income without having health care and all that good stuff. So I'm just using myself as an example to say that I would like to see a little write-in section of when people apply for these things. However, I would also like to see it that only the hiring, the committee, the subcommittee sees that information. That's why in their report, they won't say because she has experienced adversity. I mean, maybe you can just say something like that. It's a paraphrase why they felt this person would be good. That's half of it is who the person is, things they've experienced, and the other half is just what kind of person they are. And so I do remember a lot of good questions about how do you feel about equity and diversity and stuff. And they were just simple, basic questions, and then you could respond in any way you wanted to. I'm hoping that that was a good part of why I was invited. So to answer the bigger question of what do we want to see in this next person, their makeup, fine, but make it private, and have a fill in the blank. And the other is how they feel about things. And that just only comes out in the discussion.
Roberto, what did you have to say?
Yeah, no, and I appreciate Beth input. I think that we'll also flag this and check in with our Office of Civil Rights and get a better understanding of what is required as far as demographical information is, because we could also run into iffy territory on what is voluntary information required from our advisory committee members. At no point do we want to ask or require questions that folks just don't feel comfortable answering.
Thank you for that, because I personally see all those tell everything about yourself, and I refuse to sign out most of them because I don't feel like that's anybody's business. But Emma put a really nice selection. She has put some good information in the side chat there. It is time for our break. We're going to go ahead and come back at 2:30 for a presentation about Amanda Howe. And then I would like to firm up, think about what Emma put there in the side chat, because I think we need to firm up exactly what we're looking for. So I think we should do in like 5 more minutes on this topic after Amanda Howell's presentation. Yeah, everybody okay with that? Awesome. We will see you guys at 2:30.
Hey, Steve, thank you for joining us. We'll get started at 2:30 p.m. The committee's just taking a quick break. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for the update.
Welcome, Amanda. I know that you are on deck, but we're waiting for everybody to get back. So give them maybe another minute.
No problem. Okay.
And Dell, Dave, if you're ready here, if you can turn on your camera so that we know that you join us. Excellent, thank you.
Perfect. All right, Amanda, how is our next guest? Do you need anything out of the staff in terms of pushing the go button?
I don't think so. I'm going to try and share my screen right now. Hopefully, if for any reason that doesn't work, then we'll go from there.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Can you see my slides? Great. Hi, everyone. Hi, OBPAC. It's nice to be here and meet you all more officially. I'm Amanda Howell. I am the Micromobility and First Last Mile Program Coordinator for PTD and ODOT. I'm also the Interim Innovative Mobility Program Manager as well. So I'm juggling 2 hats at the moment. But I'm here today to talk about micromobility in Oregon, and I just want to say off the bat, I have tried to pack a lot of information into a relatively short period of time, and I inevitably there's going to be stuff I don't get to, so I just will state up front that if there are things that we don't get a chance to talk about today that you'd like more information on, I'm always happy to chat or talk after the fact, because there is just so much to talk about. I also am just going to say so that I think for this group, there's probably stuff that many of you are already familiar with, but I did think it would be useful to just go ahead and start with some definitions and regulations and stuff, just to make sure we're kind of all on the same page with what we're talking about. So what I am planning to cover is I'm going to talk a little bit about definitions and regulations, both at the federal and state level. What do we currently have? Shared micromobility programs currently in Oregon, where do they exist? I'm going to talk just briefly about some kind of general industry trends, especially in the shared micromobility realm, key challenges and opportunities, and then ending with what's happening in Oregon / also what are we working on within ODOT and what might be some opportunities for OBPAC involvement moving forward, and things that would be good to have you on your radar. And I will try and monitor the chat as well, but if anything comes up in the meantime, just put your hand up, your virtual or real hand up. So starting with micromobility, what even is micromobility? So this is a catch-all term for a variety of different devices. I did just want to start with what FHWA is currently using as their definition of micromobility. So how they currently define it is any small, low-speed human or electric powered transportation device, including bicycles, scooters, electric assist bikes or e-bikes, e-scooters, or other small, lightweight wheeled conveyances. And I just wanted to start there because I think that this is an iterating definition. This is the current definition, but I think that there's still things that maybe aren't entirely captured within this, particularly one area that I know that has been talked about is this is really focused on passenger movement. There is increasingly like e-cargo bikes and other smaller devices that we are using to move goods around. So that's not really captured in this definition, but that's the current federal definition. And then moving on, to talking more specifically about e-bikes and how e-bikes are currently defined at the federal level. There's a couple pieces besides having a saddle and a fully operative pedals, things like that. There are two pieces that I did really want to, or three pieces that I really want to point out. The federal definition currently defined says that an electric assisted bike electric motor must have a power output of no more than 750 watts. So that's one piece. And then the second piece is that it must fall under one of the following three classifications to be defined as an e-bike. And these are the three classifications. So class 1 is a pedal assist only, no throttle, with a max speed of 20 miles per hour, or that's the max assisted speed. Class 2 can be is pedal and throttle assist with the same max speed of 20 miles per hour, that electric assist speed. And then class 3 is pedal assist only with a max speed of 28 miles per hour. So those are the current three classifications of e-bikes. This is the federal definition of e-bikes. And at this stage, I think we're up to at least 39 other states have now adopted this definition of an e-bike. That is not the definition of an e-bike in Oregon statute currently. Here's what is currently in statute for Oregon. So this is a definition that was adopted in 1997, and it is different from the federal definition in a couple of really key ways. One is that it has our current definition says the power output is a max of 1,000 watts. That's compared to 750, so it's a little higher. The top speed is 20 miles per hour, and then we don't have any classifications. So we just have one universal definition of an e-bike. So those are some really important differentiations between the federal definition as it stands currently and where we're at in Oregon. We have at ODOT, other great folks at ODOT to put this together. This is what I'm showing, and I've linked to it here because I know it's hard to read like this, but what I'm showing here is a pocket guide that was put together to try and capture current regulations as they pertain to devices that kind of fall under the micromobility realm. I'm noting this is a 2-page document. This is the first page. I'm going to show you the second page in a second. And I wanted to note, so some of the devices that are in this pocket guide fall under that federal definition of micromobility, others don't, and some are also unclear, I would say, at this stage. So an e-scooter, that first one, yes, that would fall under micromobility. Motor assisted scooter, question mark, maybe, unclear. It's a little bit unclear based on their definition. Pocket bike and moped, that would be no. And then that second page, a Segway, yes. E-bike, definitely yes. Bike, yes, absolutely. And what I also kind of wanted to just share by showing this pocket guide is just that the regulations that we have, these are regulations in Oregon, they pertaining to each device are variable. So the top speed, the minimum age, helmet requirements, where they can be ridden, they're varied across devices. And so there's a lot of differentiation currently in our code about micromobility devices. And we don't have at the state level one definition of micromobility. There's also a variety of devices that are currently not defined in state statute that likely would fall under this micromobility umbrella. So, and maybe you've started seeing some of these around places where you all live. They're electric skateboards, one wheels, and electric unicycles. So they're the lower, I don't think we see as nearly as many of these as we see as like e-scooters and things like that, of course. But they are there and they don't really fall under any of our current statutes. So I wanted to just provide that quick overview. So that's the definitions and regulations in Oregon. And now I want to shift and talk a little bit about shared micromobility programs in Oregon, starting with bike share, kind of the overview of where we're at in the state. So at the start of 2020, there were 6 cities with bike share programs in Oregon: Portland, Eugene, Corvallis, Salem, Ashland, and Bend. I think, as may will come as no surprise to any of us, by 2021, there was one. It was just Portland. And that was really a direct result of companies like Zagster folding during the pandemic. And here's where we're at today. We're back up to 3 bike share systems. Portland and Eugene have bike share. Portland has had bike share consistently. Eugene has bike share again. And Bend also currently has a bike share program. So that's where we have currently shared bike micromobility programs that encompass bikes. There are also at least 4 cities that have shared e-scooter programs currently. Portland and Eugene both have e-scooters, and then Tualatin and Medford are 2 other cities currently in the state. Other states have had them. Other cities have had those programs, but the e-scooter programs come and go. They tend to come and go more quickly. So this is where we currently have e-scooters on city streets. The other thing I wanted to flag is that there are a handful of sort of newer shared e-bike, and what is often is more kind of a catch-all term that's being used for e-bike lending library programs. And e-bike lending library programs they really encompass a pretty broad swath of different types of shared e-bike programs, but they're growing in popularity. And there are 2 that are currently underway. One is in Portland, and I know the Street Trust is involved with that one. And then the city of Tigard is also running a pilot. I have a picture here of their something from their pilot from the Power to the Pedal. I'm not going to go into like a lot of the details with these kind of programs here, but I will talk about them a little bit more in a little bit when I talk about some of the work that we're doing at ODOT. Okay, I want to talk about some high-level trends in the industry, particularly as pertaining to shared electric mobility, micromobility. So unsurprisingly, electrification, that's been a huge trend in the industry in the last few years. And so this is a bar chart that's capturing how the number of systems with e-bikes and e-scooters have changed from 2019 to 2022. And so even just the total number of cities in the US with some kind of shared micromobility system has increased substantially between 2019 and 2022. But as you can see, the systems with e-bikes, there were 67 systems with e-bikes in 2019, and by 2022 is up to 142. And then with e-scooters, by 2022, there were 265 systems with e-scooters, up from 151 in 2019. So these programs are growing, and growing with electrification as well. Another big trend that's been happening in recent years is that cities and other agencies have been moving from short-term pilots to permanent programs. When e-scooters, particularly were first on the scene kind of in late 2018 or so, many places were starting with short pilots just to be able to understand how these fit in with the city, how did people use them, what was working and what wasn't. Portland was a great example of this. They did a series of 2 pilots before making the shared micromobility program permanent, but that program is now permanent. And so I'm here, I just wanted to show, this is a screenshot of Portland's public-facing dashboard, which is run by Ride Report. It has information about bike share and scooter share trips happening throughout the city. And so this is showing you like the density of where trips are happening. And then you can also parse that out between scooters and bikes to see specifically what types of micromobility trips are people taking the most. And so that is a public facing dashboard. And I've linked that here too for anybody who might be interested in looking into that a little bit more. Another thing, and this is a big piece, is that this is also a space where there's been a lot of market volatility. There's been a lot of players who've come and gone in recent years. Obviously, 2020 had a huge impact. And so there's been sort of some market shakeup. And what I'm showing here, these are all headlines from 2023. And the picture is basically there are ups and downs, especially because we're looking at, these are companies that by and large, especially in the e-scooter business, have been working to make a profit, and that's been proving to be difficult. So in the early part of this year, Lime reported profitability, but Bird's stock market performance has been weak. They just acquired Spin. There's just a lot of variability in this. And then just recently in August, just a couple of months ago, Lyft indicated that it was interested in selling off bike share, which is a really big deal in this space because it operates some of the largest bike share systems in the US, including New York City's City Bike, Chicago's Divvy, the Bay Area program, and Portland Bike Town. So this is a big piece, a big thing to be paying attention to, I think, for those of us in the shared micromobility space. And that I think that really takes us into then, where are the opportunities and where are the challenges with this space right now? I think we've seen historic investment in micromobility in the last few years through the bipartisan infrastructure law. There is a lot of new funding available for capital and equipment, but that funding cannot be used to support operations. And that's a really significant limitation that we're facing currently with how are we going to continue to fund the programs that currently exist, especially as these private market players are exiting, like coming and going as quickly as they are and leaving the market. And just the fact that, you know, we've seen systems come and go, that impacts ridership when you feel like you can't rely and know that that's going to continue to be there. So that's a really significant current challenge. This is really related to, you know, what I was just sharing. There's been lots of industry growth and increased ridership in the last few years. But as I said, the market's volatile and there's really an uncertain future. We've been so reliant on private companies for this, including bike share as well. I mean, scooter share and bike share. So what does this future look like for shared micromobility is a key question. Personal e-bike sales are also up and the demand is up, definitely up. But, and I you know, I'm probably don't need to say this to this group, there's not enough safe, supportive infrastructure out there. And so we are increasingly seeing more conflicts of and concerns, safety concerns for all users, people riding on sidewalks because that's where they feel safe to ride. But then that has negative impacts on pedestrians and other users of that space and creates new safety hazards. And so this is obviously also a really significant challenge that we're facing. How do we continue to make the space and create safe space for folks moving at different speeds and people on bicycles that are not electric who may be moving more slowly than people who are on electric assisted bicycles. But I say all these, like, there's good and there's bad and there's challenges, but I also want to note, I think there's also a big really opportunity for a paradigm shift as this interest in micromobility increases. I think we're kind of starting to see a shift towards shared micromobility being seen as a form of public transportation and being part of that ecosystem. And some transit agencies are starting to explore the idea of becoming mobility managers, which is a part of that paradigm shift. So thinking about it as a suite of options that allows people to get to where they need to go via the mode that best meets that trip purpose. Okay, so that brings us to what's been going on in ODOT and what's coming up. I wanted to flag ODOT's climate office released the electric micromobility report in Oregon earlier this year that came out at the beginning of the year. And I'm not going to go into all the details of that. It's a good report. There's a lot of good information in there. They identified some key barriers and then some ways to start to address some of those barriers. And I just wanted to call attention to a handful of the recommendations because these are some efforts that are already underway and I want to talk about these in a moment. So a couple things that I've called out. One is funding and promoting lending libraries, those e-bike lending libraries. Another is creating a graduated purchase incentive. And then a few others, clarifying the vehicle definitions and categorizations and considering adopting the 3-class definition for e-bike, developing and defining an approach for commercial cargo e-bikes, and then pursuing and leveraging federal funding for shared micromobility programs. So those were some of the recommendations that came out of that. And I am pleased to say that I feel like we're making some headway on that, which is really exciting. So the first thing I wanted to talk about in terms of leveraging federal funding for shared e-micromobility programs, we applied for carbon reduction program funds to support an e-micromobility pilot program. And just for a little bit of context, the carbon reduction program, those are federal funds that were allocated to the states. And then there was an internal call for projects for a portion of those funds. And that's what we've applied for. And so we've been granted $1 million to create lending libraries in 4 to 6 communities around the state that currently have limited or no access to shared micromobility programs. The program development for that is just beginning, but that's something that I am excited about and looking forward to getting going. So that's one thing. The other thing I wanted to mention, putting on my other hat for a second, is that there's the Innovative Mobility Program. We're also leveraging some federal dollars here as well. And the Innovative Mobility Program has 10 million in federal funds and 10 million in state funds. We have already to date been giving out $5,000 micro grants that have supported some really small micromobility projects that we are anticipating accepting new applications for that in early 2024. The other thing, and this is a bigger piece of this, we are working on developing the competitive grants program that's under development. And the plan will be that that will be available to support micromobility projects in addition to other types of projects, but that's definitely going to be a component. And we're planning that call for projects in 2024 as well. So those are some the funding opportunities. I know I'm covering a lot of ground, so I am going to stop talking in a minute and answer questions as for those that have come up. But I did want to also flag a few legislative concepts pertaining to micromobility for this group, some which you may have already been aware of and some which are kind of new in development. So in 2023, there was a bill, the HB 2571 that was introduced. It did receive bipartisan support. It was an e-bike rebate bill and it had a graduated incentive. It was modeled on the city of Denver has had a really successful e-bike rebate program. That's also a graduated incentive program. So it was $400 available for a rebate for anyone, and then $1,200 for income qualifying households. And so that was the one that our bill was based on. Again, it did receive bipartisan support and it made it pretty far, but it didn't actually make it out of that session or didn't pass in 2023. In 2024, as we look to this next short session, I did want to flag Representative Levy, who is representative and based in Bend, is working on a legislative concept to update the state e-bike definition and adopt those 3-tier classifications that I shared earlier, and also to change age requirements. Right now, our current regulations for e-bikes say that you have to be 16 or older, and she is working on a concept that would reduce that age limit or it would eliminate an age limit for pedal assist and to have a 16 and up age limit for throttle assist bikes. And so I did want to flag that that's something that is a concept that she's been working on. And in the materials shared, I did include a link. She gave a recent presentation during legislative days, I think just a couple weeks ago. And if you're interested in looking at or reviewing that testimony, that begins around the 34-minute mark. That's where she talks about what she's proposing. So what does that mean for you all, and things to be kind of thinking about and putting in the hopper as you're looking, I believe, doing a January work session. So I think there is always the opportunity to submit individual testimony, not as OBPAC, but individual testimony on bills pertaining to micromobility, which I think, as I flagged, I think there will be some in the short session. I think another really big piece, and this is where having this conversation and talking with this group is really great, is trying to figure out how are we going that funding stream piece to support micromobility operations moving forward, and how do we continue to make these programs last is a really big question. And so I think that's something that we could all be chewing on. Participating in conversations about a potential e-bike rebate bill coming back up. It likely, I think, will not be back in the short session, but possibly in the long session, and just flagging that there is a working group called the e-bikes for all working group. That is not an ODOT led work group that's outside of ODOT, but that is a group that has been involved with this effort to date. They were involved in the 2023 bill, and I believe are continuing to look at it for 2025. And then lastly, providing feedback on ongoing state efforts. The carbon reduction e-micromobility pilot, the IMP program things, all things that I mentioned and that I'm just beginning to work on now. Getting your feedback on that would be really beneficial. So with that, thank you. Thanks so much. I have included my contact information here. I'm always happy to chat more. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment and just put my email in the chat so that I can better see everyone. Whoop, did the wrong thing. just turned my video off. Great. All right. Questions? Oh, I see Emma. Is there any role for OBPAC with the definitions update? We are hearing across the state, people want more clarity on device classifications and regulations. That is a great question. I am still getting, I am working with Leanne, and I'm still getting a little bit of clarity on the role that OBPAC as a committee can play with that versus what you can all do as individuals. So I apologize that I don't have like a better answer for that right now, but I am getting additional information and I will follow up with you all about that.
That sounds great. Thank you for being here and presenting this. I know that we've received the public comment, so that's part of what I'm thinking about. And that public comment from Dick Delganis is down in the Roseburg area. He's on a lot of the local active transportation committees. I believe is also the bike ped or active transportation rep on the area commission on transportation in that area.
Okay.
And so one role that OBPAC has been self-electing to take on is communicating and building relationships with bike ped reps on the different area commissions on transportation and the local active transportation advisory committees, whether they're a BPAC or an ATC or whatever they want to call themselves. So if we can be a communication conduit or help kind of get out the word for the efforts that you're involved in,
okay,
just knowing more about what's going on with the definition update, and if there are roles for us to play, whether it's advising and giving our opinion, or if it's just distributing communication so that the representatives across the state who are interested in these types of things know what's going on so they can engage.
okay.
We're just hearing this as a common theme, and so if we can help be responsive in some way, that would be pretty cool.
That's great. Thanks for that clarity. And I will follow up about that. Dave.
Excuse me. Yeah, I'm Dave Thompson. I live in Bend, so I have certainly had some conversations with Representative Levy about her thoughts, obviously reacting to a fatal incident we had here in Bend several months ago. I guess my comment is, I think it's very important that we recognize that there are kind of competing interests here. On the one hand, we're really trying to advance micromobility because it's just got huge benefits for the greenhouse gas reduction and, enabling people who have not been equally treated by the transportation system, just lots of benefits. And on the flip side, we have some serious issues with safety, ranging from, uneducated users of the new stuff to existing drivers to charging batteries in an apartment building, right? And, how we need to make sure that as we move forward, we try and keep those together and not focus on one thing and then realize that we've created a new problem on the other side, kind of thing, right? And it's going to be tough because, micromobility is much harder to regulate and enforce, I think, than people driving cars. So it's going to be, we're going to have lots of challenges. I don't have answers, just pointing out the problem.
Yes, I hear you and appreciate that. I do think there's definitely growing pains right now as we figure all these things out. And to your point, there's a variety of different safety concerns. Part of it also being, yes, charging batteries and making sure that that's all safe as well. So yeah, thank you, Dave. Beth?
I would love to see, coming from the planner's perspective, code. Well, actually, I started with, okay, yeah, us bike ped people would love to know what's a great system. Also, planning commissioners and city council members, they don't know these definitions, and so model code would be wonderful.
Yeah, thanks for flagging that. That is something I've heard, and I think that's something we should definitely be looking at and working towards. And I didn't add this to the slide, but one of the other things that I've been thinking a lot about and the need for is just having a repository of information and being able to point to programs and resources, because we're at a point now with a lot of this where many systems are mature enough that a lot of great materials do exist, guidebooks exist, but having a place, a repository for that information and just somewhere we can point to would also be beneficial.
I am noting that we did have a couple of questions in the chat. Someone who one of our guests asked if we had any public safety campaign for materials for micromobility users, and I was checking in with our safety office to see if we have anything printed, and not currently is what I'm hearing. So I'm seeing nods from Amanda, so I'm guessing that's true. So I'm going to email this fellow who had to hop off, but wanted to say that out loud.
Yeah, that's right. That is something, and I've been in touch with the Transportation Safety Office. That's also, I think, something that I believe is part of Representative Levy's bill, would be ways, because I think as soon as, especially with also like safe routes to school programming and education, because there's that current 16 and up age limit for e-bikes, it's limited the ability to divert or put some of that transportation safe routes to school funding towards e-bike education, and with potentially the changing the definitions of e-bikes at the state level, that would potentially open that up and then allow us to move towards doing more of that education in schools, as well as doing a more broad safety education program. Mavis?
I was just wondering with the micromobility, how it changes so fast, and it's exciting and it's wonderful. But what I'm seeing is a lot of the transportation system is getting left behind. So like the users that, like myself, I know the rules from 30 years ago, and I get yelled at by little old men who know the rules from 60 years ago. So how do we go about bringing those people to understand like how things are moving and how things are changing, so that they are not feeling like people are entering their area, or so they're not getting defensive and wanting to run me over. So do we have like a plan to continue this education, not just at the elementary level, but at the higher level as well?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think that is something that I have been talking with folks in our transportation safety office about, because, and really part of that being, the transportation safety office has done some, has a lot of bike safety education and bike and just also how to, sharing the road and things like that. But now that there's increasing need to update those materials to reflect the wider variety of devices and speeds and how we're sharing space and that kind of etiquette. And so that is something that is in the works. It doesn't exist yet, but it is something we've been talking about, because you're right, those things are changing and the devices are changing fast.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thanks. Beth?
Along those lines, you're right. A model code can only go so far. People have to know that it's not everybody reads the municipal code, and so police departments, how to reach out, how to have a grace period to inform people, and handouts or whatever it takes, websites, that outreach to community groups, health groups, but mostly police, because they are the enforcers and they have no idea what to do right now.
Yeah. So addition, like some website outreach, materials, collateral, things like that we could be passing out, and guidance materials. I do know that I think the city of Eugene has started installing, especially on a lot of their shared use paths, signs about sharing space and where different people who are on devices of different speeds, how and where they should be riding. So I think increasingly things like that are going to be part of what we will need to move to.
And also keeping in mind that some people just don't like to read stuff, even signs, and so reaching out to them somehow. Blind people, all kinds of users of the sidewalk and street. Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Emma, I see your comments. Thank you. Liam?
Yeah, I just wanted to note that there was another question in the chat, which I can read out loud. I just wanted to make sure that we're getting to them if we have time, which is, do you have a general sense of the timeline for the carbon reduction program e-mobility pilot? Do you know about that one?
Yeah. Well, so we're at the very, very beginning of stages of that. And I think we're sorry, I'm like stumbling over my words. I am hoping that we will be starting to be moving that all forward towards the end of next year, like with potentially devices on the ground. But it's still loose, as we're still trying to figure all these different pieces out and where exactly these pilots will be. So I will I can follow up with additional information. Apologies that these timelines are a bit loosey-goosey.
I wouldn't mind seeing updates periodically, having you come back just for a few minutes whenever you have news.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think we're very interested in seeing what you're doing.
That sounds great. Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, I know you all have other things to get to, so thanks so much for having me. And I will definitely follow up with, I appreciate this feedback and then other things to be working towards, and we'll follow up with more information.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Did anybody have any other? We're actually a little ahead of schedule still. So does anybody have anything else they want to ask before Amanda takes off?
I have a statement that I'm very pleased that you're on this, Amanda. It sounds like you're really thinking it through, and you have hopefully some co-workers that are. How big is your team? Is it you or?
I am the only micromobility person right now who's designated micromobility, but I am working with other folks in PTD and on multimodal work in total. And then I've also been liaising. I mean, I think because as we've kind of talked about, this is a topic that touches a lot of different areas. And so I'm also working with folks in transportation safety and folks within our climate office. And so we're kind of approaching this from trying to approach it from that holistic perspective and safety and how are we touching all these different things, infrastructure, all of that. So
great.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you for your work.
Thanks.
So before you leave, did we come up with what we can do to help you? Or did you just get information and you feeling pretty content with that?
I think right now, well, so I am going to follow up about how we can get the word out about the definitions and the legislative concept. I do think that that's something I would love to make sure is on this, the radar of folks working in this space. Absolutely. And knowing that that's going to be coming. I will also be working towards some, I think definitely model code would be really helpful. And I think that'll be something too that I would like to bring back to this group as well. So yes, I think in some, yes, I think I have what I need for the moment.
All right. Thank you very much.
Can I just say one more thing since you mentioned model code? There's the whole DLCD that I think they would love to talk to you, Department of Land Conservation and Development.
Yes.
And yeah, so they're good at that.
Yeah, they are good at that.
Yeah, so your job is just talking to everybody. Thank you so much, Amanda.
Thanks.
Emma, did you have something?
Yeah, just for next steps, Amanda, do you know Andre Lightsey Walker? He's not present. He's on OBPAC and he's kind of the point person on this topic, but he's not here today. So I'm wondering if you two have already connected or if that's something we should facilitate.
I haven't connected directly with Andre. I'm connected with folks within Street Trust, but not Andre directly.
Got it. Yeah, he now works at Metro.
Oh,
but
he's
I
now at Metro. Oh dear.
a
Okay.
connection between the two of you could be helpful for follow on this topic related to OBPAC's involvement.
That would be great. I'd appreciate that.
Thanks.
Thanks, Emma.
Awesome. So I think that brings us back to our former topic of who do we not have at the table, whose point of view do we not have within the OBPAC community? Who should we be looking for our next recruitment? I personally would like somebody that's going to be here for, a good 6 years, but I don't always get my my ruthers. So anybody else have anything other than Emma's list, which was incredible and once again, very detailed?
Are y'all seeing the list?
And you're amazing.
So I was taking some of your ideas from your discussion and Emma's great notes in the chat and just trying to kind of put it all into a slide. Also some comments that Jessica Horning was putting into the chat about like what the requirements are for the House Bill 2985, which is sort of like the diversity requirement for committees, as well as our statute for OBPAC. So the top 3 are required, and the bottom 7 were discussion topics that were mentioned. Yeah, Dave.
So I don't have anything to add to the list. I wanted to speak just briefly from a long experience with hiring people. So I think the subcommittee, whoever they end up being, needs to have a clear set of weighted goals, right? So we know that there are requirements, and so basically those mean we're not going to consider anybody who doesn't meet these, period, right? So that's easy. But then you get into the desired qualifications or backgrounds, and it gets a lot more murky. And I think in order for the subcommittee, again, to be successful in the eyes of the group at large and the community at large, the subcommittee is going to need to have a pretty good process for evaluating candidates against a wide range of possible attributes. So I think there's going to be some work for the subcommittee to kind of figure that out before they start going through resumes and talking to people, so that they have a clear path to come up with recommendations. And it's hard. And the more things you add, the harder it gets. So I'm willing to help with that. I don't think necessarily I'd be a good subcommittee member, but I'm willing to help with the process if that's useful.
Dave, I think you'd be a great subcommittee member. I'm just saying.
Well, unfortunately, I will be the first to admit that based on my position in society and my background, I tend to subconsciously favor people who fit my mold of what, of things. And it's really hard to not fall into that trap. I mean, I'm willing to serve if there's not better people, but I'm not sure I would be the best person to do that.
So you're thinking unconscious bias.
Yeah, exactly.
That is a thing.
Yeah. I mean,
but you'd be one of a group also,
yeah.
And you are very aware of it. So I'm just
Do we have anybody that would like to? Well, let's finish what we're looking at.
Okay.
So we have that long list. Do we have anything that we wanted to add to that? That's just kind of our wish list. As Dave was saying, the top of the list, definitely you have to have those. After that, if two people were to be equal, that's when you would start looking at the desires to give, to choose in between two people. Does anybody have any additions or subtractions to this list? Beth?
I would just say other or fill in the blank or something like that, because we can't think of everything. I guess that's all I wanted to say. I know, I remember. I also, then that runs into what we mentioned about not wanting to share it with the state, what their thing is. And so I know we're working on the list, but the next step is the subcommittee. Is there a way that they could only talk to the 3 subcommittee people and have that be private, and not even have the subcommittee write down anything? And then when they do report why they love this person, then they can use broad terms when they're talking to our committee. That's my thought.
I believe that's what the interview process is for, but Emma, you had something?
Yeah, I appreciate Leanne capturing this. I just wanted to speak to a couple items that I'd put forward. I think we're unlikely to find someone who is both a mobility device user and a cane user, so I would suggest breaking those into 2 separate items. Thanks, Leanne. And then what I was thinking about with regards to transgender, I think is actually a bit broader, like someone who has experienced or is more likely to experience discrimination and in public spaces as they're walking and biking, using transit based on their gender identities. And so I don't know how to put that succinctly, but I know that's a very real. I've read news stories and talked to individuals, and I don't personally experience that type of discrimination, but I know that people in Oregon do, based on their level of access to transit system and walking and biking because of that part of their identity.
Okay, wonderful. I think we should move on. Now we need people to volunteer to be part of this committee that's going to head this up. Personally, I think our last under 21er did a really great job at this. I'm looking at you, Nolan. Are you in?
Yeah, I would love to pick someone out. That sounds wrong. I would love to be on the committee.
Thank you so much. Do we have anybody that would love to get to know Nolan and work with him a little more?
Was Dave already on it, or are you willing?
I was waiting to see who else volunteered. I'm willing. Again, based on my previous statement, I would prefer not to be the person that ends up organizing the subcommittee.
Noted. Okay. Do we have anybody? I'm looking at a lot of people that have noticeably said that they're kind of tapped out, but I think we need one more person. Beth?
Maybe Andre? He's not here, but he might.
I'm thinking Andre would be wonderful. I mean, can we have 3 or 4 more people? How many do you want in the committee? 3 or 4?
I think we should Andre kind of said he didn't want to be on it. But I would love to throw him on there and maybe put one more so he can graciously once again decline.
So Andre's the only person who's not here. The rest are openings. Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah, that's why I'm looking at a lot of people that are already tapped out, but this is where we're at.
If that's
Is
the
that
case,
why?
I'll do it.
Oh, sorry. Is there a special situation where, like, because we're not at our full membership, we don't have to record I know they were talking about this earlier, but I was wondering if there's another way around it with, like, not everyone being on the board. We can have subcommittees without recording them.
If it's not a quorum. Is that what
Okay.
you're saying? Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, so it looks to me like Beth, Nolan, Dave, you are, and we're going to once again ask Andre if he could be part of this committee. You guys are going to go forth and follow Leanne's little pretty picture of how we're supposed to get things done.
Yep.
We have officially done the first little blue box, which says that we talked about this and we kind of have an idea what we're looking for. And then you guys are going to interview these people, and then prior to sending the list to the governor's office, you are going to bring it back up so that anybody who has something intense to say can do it before we onboard these new members. Am I missing any bits?
Question, who's the staff person who's gonna be on that? Leanne?
In the past, we didn't have a lot of staff participation.
Like
as
one
far-
contact person?
like we would need to figure out like what do you need staff to do, and what that would be would probably
Well,
indicate
just, is there, do they vet things for that first list? Does ODOT usually do that, or is that something the committee needs to do? And then just kind of
it was
monitor
pretty
us.
committee run the last time.
Okay, so we just get handed a batch of applications?
That's correct, Beth. At the last round, we share all of the applications, which came up to like close to 40, if I recall correctly, Dell.
Yeah.
You may remember. What we helped with was just like facilitating, like scheduling the meetings with the applicants and sending out the public announcement for recruitment, and also sort of creating like the database where folks were inputting the application questions into.
Okay, and another question, is there a number of interviewees we need to, do we determine the number of interviewees there are?
let's identify a staff person so that we don't have to do it in the
Yes,
meetings.
please.
That's
Yes, please.
I'm getting what you're putting down, Beth. How about I'll be your staff person, and Roberta
Thank
will help facilitate this.
How did you know I was looking at you, Leanne? It's only because Roberto I can't see.
No, I like
Looking at both of you.
as I'm listening, I'm like, oh, okay, we can do this.
Thank you. Please and thank you.
Roberto and I will we are OBPAC staff people, so we will be your staff people for this. And
Okay, and then not to keep any more time, but what's the next step? Do we need to schedule a meeting? Do we need to do it now? Can we do it by email? What do you want to do?
I think probably would need to be a meeting before January to kick it off. And if there's a timeline that you all are looking for to try to add people by, then we would sort of work backwards from that timeline. And I think that all of those things could be things that the subcommittee decides, unless the committee is like, no, actually, we want more involvement. The whole committee.
So it's sounding like the 4 or 5 of us need to get together. The committee, and maybe Andre, if he's the committee, and Leanne, maybe Roberto. We need to have a meeting, like in the next couple weeks. Does that sound okay? Okay. Well, Roberto, can you put out a
Yes, absolutely. I can help out
availability?
with the scheduling. I'll probably send out a doodle poll to get everyone's availability that way.
Thank you. And who's going to send a nice note to Andre? Or call him? I'll do it.
I will.
Oh, will you? That'd be wonderful, Dave. Thank you.
He had some very strong opinions. I'd like to talk to him and see
Yeah.
either get his input on this,
Yes.
what we're doing, or get him to join in.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful. Thank you, Dave.
Sorry, but just a real quick question before that meeting. So are we going to know what kind of outreach ODOT is going to do with their posting? Is it just going to be the usual, where nobody sees it who doesn't already follow ODOT?
We will
Um,
utilize OBPAC to help us get the word out about the post.
That's what I
We
figured.
will we
Okay.
will post it and we'll have a nice link and then folks can help get the word out. We also still have a bunch of applicants from the first recruitment, and the applicant pool was actually pretty diverse. And the application is actually open all the time. So we've been receiving applications even since then. The difference that we can push out now is like we can actually list all the things that we're looking for, you know, like, hey, here are all the qualities that we would love to see in an OBPAC member, and then we could see what additional folks that we could get. But the committee could start kind of by reviewing what we already have and sort of see like, hey, could we meet some of these things with the applications that we already have? So there's a couple different ways to do it. But in regards to outreach, I think that we would also really love the help from existing OBPAC members to get the word out to join you all in this great venture. Yeah, Emma.
Thanks.
Sorry, my brain's working slower than usual. One other addition that I wanted to add to the desired or ask our committee right now is there anyone currently on the committee who doesn't have a driver's license and doesn't have access to a car? Or is that something we want to add to our desired attributes?
Or maybe say it differently. Their primary transportation is, I know you're trying to make it objective, but their primary transportation is motor vehicle. Like that?
Well, I fall under that, but I still have a driver's license.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm
I think
saying.
there are different barriers when you don't have access. If you don't have a driver's license, if you don't have access to a car, I know I make decisions for my personal transportation differently now after purchasing a car than I did for the first decade of my adult life when I had to rely on walking, biking, or transit. I guess I had a driver's license, but you know, it's a different, you think about getting around differently if you just don't have access versus, oh, I had this option of a convenient car in the garage if I need it for an emergency.
So everything Emma just said, put that on the list. No, just kidding. Yeah, you
Someone who doesn't have
paraphrase it
access
to
a
be like
car
that.
may not have a driver's license.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. And I see, Emma, you said that we would shoot for appointment at the March meeting, which I think is a fabulous goal. Leanne, since you were supposed to be leading this section, do you have anything else to add? Awesome. Let's go ahead and take our 5-minute break. We will be back here at 3:35 for our roundtable and on to the next. Hello, welcome back. So we are on to the member roundtable. Do we have Dell and Nolan? There's Nolan.
Hi there.
Do we have? Okay, I just can't see you, Dell. All right, so member roundtable. First one up is me, Safe Routes to School. So we had a Safe Routes to School meeting, and I basically love everything that they're doing with the doing the infill and giving us, you know, sidewalks to walk on and all that good stuff. Some things that did come up is there is a new lower match for the particularly for the small rural areas. So they should be able to pump out more projects for a lot of them weren't even applying because the amount of cash needed was so high. And there's a new lower match that should help them. And then the award has been changed to 3 million, I think up from 2. Is that correct, Leanne?
Mhm.
Yeah. So higher award because we're finding that people need more money because of inflation. And so those were the 2 main things that came out of that meeting. Another one was core curriculum goals. How do we make it so that to get a Safe Routes to School program within a school system that you don't need to have somebody on that staff really avid in bicycling or walking to actually get those classes to those kids, that maybe it would be a core curriculum goal, something along that line, so that it is not just a whim of somebody within the school, which I don't know how to go about that, but that is definitely a goal I think that would be fabulous. So that's my report on Safe Routes to School. Nolan, OCT.
I don't really have that much to say. It took about all of 2 minutes for me to say our statement about you know, the lack of the lack of ability to get maintenance money for like just bike infrastructure that's not tied to roads or anything, or pedestrian infrastructure. And they were nice, and that's about it. I can't really say anything about it, but it went well.
Thank you for going and representing. Emma, do you have anything?
I do. So back on November 2nd, I think it was, I met with ODOT executives, Mac Lind, Leanne Ferguson, Stephanie Zellner, Marcia Hoskins, Tova Peltz, Dorian Pacheco, and Beth about the Mobility Advisory Committee, since we were wondering where things were at. And long story short, the next steps are that ODOT is taking a bit more ownership, and they're going to provide a new charter in the first quarter of 2024, hopefully by March. OBPAC should be ready to provide feedback on that new charter doc, maybe in February or so. We discussed how that group would kind of reconvene. We'd have an opportunity to review and comment. So that the OBPAC has had a MAC work group. Lake McDye has been part of it. I've been part of it. Mavis has been part of it. Maybe Beth wants to join us now. I'm not sure. And then kind of bring forward a recommendation for full comments for OBPAC to approve, and then provide that feedback to ODOT. So we're in another iterative cycle, but I'm a bit more hopeful now since ODOT seems to be taking a bit more ownership and asking the questions of what does the agency need from the Mobility Advisory Committee, and what is the role that they want that committee to be playing. And then we're anticipating that in that charter, OBPAC will continue to have the role of identifying and appointing the bicycle representative and the pedestrian representative that are called for in state statute for the stakeholder advisory forum, or the stakeholder forum for the freight reduction review routes, ORS 366215, that are basically maintaining that hole in the air so that commercial freight vehicles can get through different corridors and key routes across the state so that goods and services can get to where they need to go, and we can have our economy functioning while also keeping in mind safety and different road user and walking and biking needs on the transportation system. So stay tuned. More should be happening in the first quarter of 2024 on that topic. And then my second update is the Jurisdictional Transfer Advisory Committee. All of you appointed me to be the OBPAC rep on that new committee that was established in response to the legislation from this last legislative session in 2023. It is a committee that is setting up a process and going to be recommending 3 facilities to transfer with monetary compensation approved by the legislature, hopefully in the 2025 legislative session. So it's kind of gearing up this whole new process to have a more systematic approach to jurisdictional transfers, where ODOT might own a facility right now, but a local city or county may be willing or wanting to have ownership of that facility so they have more control. But then there's the financial liability that goes along with that. There's a lot of opportunity to incorporate more multimodal safety, kind of complete streets design into that. Today's meeting was just the orientation, establishing ourselves as a group, starting to look at our charter, get things up and functioning. We appointed Sarah Iannarone, the executive director of the Street Trust, as the chair of the committee, and then Kevin, I believe, who works for City of Tigard, is the vice chair. Seems like a really good group, and I'm excited to be part of the process. And at the very end, Sarah brought up the criteria for the Great Streets program. So we might be looking to that program for some ideas of how we might develop the application process and the types of criteria to potentially consider. So we're looking at everything from urban to rural, low cost to high dollar amount jurisdictional transfers. But there's a lot of opportunity there. We'll see how it goes.
Thank you. Dave, do you have anything?
So I'm not quite sure what's appropriate for this this segment of the meeting. I can provide a couple updates about Deschutes County active transportation if people are interested, but I don't have anything directly relating to OBPAC. So
Yeah, that's what we want to hear about.
okay, cool. So as I mentioned earlier, the Deschutes County BPAC has been working for the last 3.5 years towards getting a list of desired active transportation connections within the county into the county's transportation systems plan. And we are now on the cusp. The county commissioners are holding a hearing tomorrow to decide if they're going to adopt the draft that contains most of what we wanted or not. Amazingly, there's quite a lot of pushback. We've gotten a lot of public comments basically wanting them to change the transportation systems plan to say we should have less trails. So it's going to be interesting. We've got a mix of leanings on the county commission, so we'll see how it goes. On kind of a related note, ODOT has been working on a project now for a couple of years to build a active transportation path from the south end of Bend to connect down to the Lava Butte Park, which is a few miles south of Bend, where there's already a trail down to Sun River. So that would create an actual off-street connection between Sun River and Bend, which is one of the things on our list. And again, we're getting a lot of pushback from adjacent landowners on everything from it will impact deer migration routes. It's right next to US 97. I'm not sure it's going to make things any worse. Or that homeless people will somehow, get 3 miles outside the city limits and want to camp there. So it's been interesting, and I guess I'm learning more about politics than I ever wanted. That's all I have.
I think we all are. Del, what do you have to say?
Well, I haven't been doing much on the statewide level, as you guys probably know. ORTAC is not ORTAC. ORTAC has been pretty inactive due to ever since the pandemic. Actually, we have not had a meeting for a long time. That's disappointing. I have been very active on the Clackamas County Bike Ped Committee. They've been having very well attended monthly meetings, sometimes in person, more often in Zoom, sometimes combination. And one of the cool things that Clackamas County is working on is a bike map. We update our bike map every few years. This time they're actually putting it online, and it will be accessible through your handheld devices, and it will have a lot of information, clickable, bike shops, other points of interest, and we actually had a demonstration of it. It's not ready for the public yet, but it's going to be a pretty cool thing. And they also integrated it with Portland and Tigard and other neighboring cities, so that once you get outside county limits, you're not falling off a cliff. So it's going to be a very useful tool, and hopefully some point in time we can get something like this statewide, where all the different counties and cities and stuff will get their maps coordinated, so that you can link from one to the other. Other than that, I've been pretty active, just doing stuff on my own. I ran a 48-hour run in Newport, in your backyard, Beth, a few weeks ago, and managed to go run over 100 miles in 48 hours. And I think I'm the oldest Oregon runner that's 100 miles now. So that was sort of a big deal. All right.
All right, thank you very much. Beth.
Mute. All right. Emma, were you going to talk about the email we got from
We were gonna do that right after you reported.
Okay, good. All right. The only thing I have to say is I wonder if I could, okay, I want to report on the lack of any activity regarding local bike ped group outreach. And in fact, I wouldn't mind if somebody else, maybe one of our new people that will be new, would like to be on that group and take the helm and all, because I'm not doing it. I mean, demonstratively, I'm not doing it. I will stay on the committee if I'm wanted, but I would rather focus on getting new people, and then they can do the work. There's still work that needs to be done. We've done the gather information part, and I feel we've done that really well, but this group needs to make some decisions and bring them to the bigger group, and then start on implementation, or at least getting the ball rolling on some of these things. So that's my report on the outreach to local bike ped groups. That's all I had to say.
Okay. I think that would be a great thing to put on our agenda build for next meeting. So we had I wanted to circle back to the information about Reedsport. I put a link in the chat that everybody can kind of look at. It came to me, and I'm sorry, I lost my phone, and so I was really out of touch for a little bit, but I have my phone back now. I found this, and what it is it looks like a very delightful road diet in the first picture, and then it looks like they're changing it from 2 lanes with the turn lane and parking on the side. They're proposing to turn it into, it looks like 2 lanes traveling one way with a turn lane in the middle and then 1 lane going the one way. And it will be greatly reducing the bike lane on at least one side.
Yes,
I don't
it's
know.
on one side and it's
Yeah.
reducing it to 3 feet. Is that, can you even call that a bike lane?
I don't know, Leanne, have you had any contact with this project and can kind of help us navigate this? Because it does seem like we're going in the wrong direction.
So, number one, no, I just saw this when Emma forwarded it to me a little bit earlier, and I'm not, so I don't know about the project, any particulars of the project. When I think about OBPAC and I think about this project, the things that, and it appears to still be in the planning phase, because the 2 things I could think of that OBPAC might want to consider is potentially just like kind of writing out your questions and concerns into a letter directed to Director Strickler or Mac Lind or both, or Tova, like some of the folks who were in that meeting that we had about the Mobility Advisory Committee. Like those could be the folks to write a letter to, and or kind of requesting the same project level presentation from the project managers for OBPAC's review and consideration. Something along, if y'all wanna ask the project managers to come present, like we could help with that. I think there's like a recommended bike lane width. I don't know off the top of my head like what makes it too small to be considered a bike lane, but the recommendation is usually 5 feet. Like I don't know of a 3 foot of a recommendation to build a 3 foot bike lane.
So Leanne, I'm seeing slide number 8 has one idea of 4 and 4, and slide number 9 has the one that Rob sent us with the 3 and 5. And you know, I'm just seeing this for the first time too. But slide number 7 says that they have an existing 3. Oh, sorry, not 3 foot lane. They said 3 lane section. So anyway, it's 2 options, I guess, that they're considering.
But I think that Emma had something to say on this.
Yeah,
so I
where'd
think
Emma go?
yeah,
There you are.
right there. I would like Emma. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I am scratching my head saying, how did this even come forward in a presentation to the MAC earlier this month? I'm looking at the blueprint for urban design that was then integrated into the highway design manual, and they're considering this location to be an urban mix for the urban context type. And it says, start with separated bike facility, consider roadway characteristics. And then you'll see on slide 17 of 22 in this presentation that the highway design manual guidance for urban mix is to have an on-street bicycle lane of 5 feet and potentially a 2 foot buffer on top of that. At first glance, I mean, a 3 foot bike lane isn't a bike lane. I think back in the 90s, we're talking 30 something years ago, a 4 foot bike lane kind of existed for a while where traffic engineers had to squeeze things in, and it was a door zone bike lane. It was not a safe condition, but it was the initial efforts of traffic engineers and transportation planners to get some sort of separated bike facility in there. But 3 feet doesn't even, I'm just like, what standard are they pointing to? What's the reasoning for this? I want to know more information, because this just seems like an egregious disregard to the existing policies and design guidance that's been approved by the agency. So that's my biggest question, is like, how did this come about? How are they even claiming that 3 feet is a bike lane? Because I don't see any precedent, or like, that just doesn't work. So I'd like to learn more information. I think Leanne's suggestions of, writing in to Director Strickler, Macklin, and Tova and saying, hey, this came to our attention, we're really confused, help us understand what's going on and how can OBPAC engage with this. And then potentially project presentation on this to OBPAC could be a follow-up. It could be a different next step, but I think we asked them saying, hey, there's this problem. How do you recommend we proceed? Because this is going backwards.
I think that is fabulous. Would you like to draft that letter?
I was hoping to leave this meeting without having any tasks because life has been nuts.
I know, but this one's totally your wheelhouse. I'm so sorry. I'll help you.
Can I have a backup person who, if I haven't done it in a week, they take it over? I can attempt to, but
I
realistically,
heard I'll help you. I heard a little I'll help you.
I will help you on this one, but you have been in the thick of this one, so I really feel like it's your wheelhouse, or I would not be asking.
Okay, if I haven't done it in a week, Mavis, please take it because I'm heading back to Portland to be in keeping my mom company in the hospital for the next few days. And that's the context that I'm in. I just haven't even had capacity for any of this sort of stuff. So yeah.
Well, I will be your sounding board, and if you need to escape and write a letter, I'd cheer you on. Otherwise, I will take it on. Perfect.
The other random thought I had is to kind of somehow deputize Rob Interfeld to draft something because he brought it to your attention and be like, hey Rob, can you help us out? Can you we're trying to draft a letter. Could you do a draft for us and then we can send it, or something like that. Not deputize him, but you could sort of consider him as part of your community in this because he's on the same.
I could CC him on submitting something and say, hey Rob, if there's anything you want to add, please chime in. And then he has the opportunity, but it's saying hey, OBPAC is putting our weight behind this. This is something of high concern that a governor appointed committee is saying, what's going on? This is not okay.
And I think we can kind of rely on that. We're governor appointed, sort of quote your ORS, hey, and our charge is bike lanes, in the ORS, y'all are listed in anyway.
Not backward non-lanes.
Yeah. So anyway, thank y'all for discussing this. And
do we need to vote to delegate the authority to Mavis and me? Because I don't want to have to wait till next meeting and that this is moving.
Yeah. Do we need a motion that would make it so that Emma and I could draft a letter, and we of course would run it by the committee and then send it.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
A second.
I'll second.
Perfect. I need to see hands. Let me see your hands. Those in favor? Those opposed? Excellent. Emma, you're number one. Okay. We're down to the agenda build. Do we have anything other than, I think we should revisit this, Leanne, if we would either have a presentation where they would come in and talk about this project or merely revisit this and where it is going. So that should be on the agenda. And then Beth had a revisit of the outreach.
Outreach and recruiting for the outreach group.
Yes. Do we have anything else that we want to? So if you guys noticed, I snuck in some micromobility and a few other things that I find super, super interesting. So I wanted to hear about them. Is there anything else that is kind of on our agenda or things that people want to know more about? Emma.
I have a clarification on the recruitment. We've talked over the last several years about changing the statute. And I'm wondering if that was supposed to be part of today's discussion, it was missed, or if that's scheduled for January. When are we addressing the bigger picture statute membership changes?
So I think that here's the idea that staff sort of wanted to propose, which is that I think that January y'all should really work on updating your work plan, and if getting the statute changed is something that is rising to the top, because staff can't really do statute changes. It would be an OBPAC work plan that we could help kind of support. And so that's sort of where I would put this under. I would say let's not try to pack your next agenda. I think you should spend 90% of your time on your work plan. And I think that this should be part of that discussion. So those are my suggestions. Like
I just don't want it to be
recruiting.
lost.
What was that?
I don't want it to be lost. That works for me. I just really
Okay.
don't want that to be lost year after year after year, and then us continue to be, 6 people sitting around the table when we really should be, more than 8.
Yeah, totally get it. Yep. So we've got revisit recruitment, revisit statute requirement for OBPAC, revisit Reed's Port project, and oh yeah, there it is. It's actually already on the agenda build for next month, OBPAC statute and membership composition. So I think we can do that all kind of under the umbrella, or not all of it, but most of it under the umbrella of the work plan update, where I think we should dig in and say take some stuff out, move some other important stuff in, like what kind of look for the opportunities and where y'all want to spend your time in 2020.
Okay, maybe we can table the outreach to the following meeting. I'm just volunteering that because waiting until we have new people would be nice.
Well, and that would be something that would be excellent to put into our work plan as well. So I think that falls under that.
Cool.
Anything else? Because we are officially over time. All right. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for taking time out of your day and pushing this cause in particular. Thank you, Roberto. It's so nice to see your face. And we get to see everybody in person, correct, after the new year? Is that correct?
Right now we're thinking of having it be in person or hybrid. Just in my experience with January, it's very hit or miss whether anybody can actually travel in January. So yeah, we can definitely plan to meet in person with like a we'll change to hybrid if the weather changes, or we could look to we'll just do a hybrid meeting or an online meeting and schedule our in-person time when we think the weather's going to be nicer. So those are right now we're on schedule to have a hybrid meeting, basically to accommodate folks who can come in person, but also be able to accommodate folks who cannot come in person.
I think the goal is to get together and get a goal and work on a work plan. So I very much look forward to seeing everybody in person this next one. Please make all the effort possible because I will be, and trust me, I have a long ways to come to see you guys. So I hope to see you guys all in person next meeting. And
Where?
I don't know, but it's definitely not my neck of the woods.
I think if we did do a hybrid meeting, we should probably do it in Salem. We also are running into a staff capacity issue pretty hardcore with Dorian leaving, and it's just so the easier we can make it, the happier staff will be. So if we can do it in Salem, that's awesome.
Salem or Portland would be perfect. We will see you guys there.
In the current invitation I have, it says Salem, and I think it says, I believe it's the Capitol because it's on Capitol Street, which I assume has the state capitol on it.
You mean it's not Portland?
No, it's
okay. I say this meeting is adjourned. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.